$12 million. That's the cost of a luxury golf course. It's the price of rolling emerald fairways, pristine white bunkers, and a lifetime of bragging rights for a homeowners association. But today, we're not talking about building a golf course. We're talking about burying one. Imagine watching arrogant, power-drunk neighbors spend every last cent of their reserves, plus a monstrous loan, to build a paradise, only for you to hold the single piece of paper that lets you turn their crown jewel into a municipal dump. Welcome to the story of Mr. Elias Vance, a man who knows the difference between possession and ownership. This isn't just a tale of revenge. It's a masterclass in malicious compliance, and it starts with one simple question that the HOA never bothered to ask. Are you absolutely sure this land is yours? Elias inherited his grandfather's old 150-acre ranch property in Texas. It was outside the HOA's boundary, but it bordered their newly developed, high-end community, the kind with fountains and granite guard gates. Elias didn't use the land much. It was mostly scrubland, dusty, and quiet, but the HOA president, a man we'll call board member Bob, saw it differently. He saw an eyesore. He saw wasted potential. He saw the perfect footprint for a championship golf course, the crown jewel that would push their property values into the stratosphere. The first letter Elias received wasn't an offer. It was a violation notice. Their letter, smug and condescending, stated, "Your land is deemed a public nuisance. Your unsightly and unkept property is negatively impacting the aesthetic integrity of our entire subdivision. We demand remediation within 60 days, or we will apply an aggressive legal penalty." This lit a fire under Elias. They didn't want the land. They wanted to bully him into selling cheap. His initial reaction was pure, justifiable anger. He wanted to march down there and tear down their perfectly manicured hedges. But Elias, a man with a genius-level understanding of property law, had a better idea. A much, much slower idea. Wait a second. An HOA is fining a house they don't even manage for being unsightly? That's like getting a parking ticket from a librarian. Seriously, did they think this was going to work? Elias did two things immediately. First, he sent them a 2-word response to their lawsuit. Denied. See title. Second, he walked straight to the county archives and pulled the original land grant for his ranch, signed decades before the HOA even existed. He checked every comma, every boundary marker, every obscure, ancient right-of-way. This is where the fear should have kicked in for the HOA. Instead, their lawyers dismissed Elias as an amateur nuisance. They figured they could bury him in motions and delays until his land was effectively worthless. So the HOA went for the Hail Mary. They moved in. Ignoring Elias's brief legal filings, they quickly secured a massive bank loan and started construction on the golf course, deliberately encroaching on his boundary lines. They fenced off a huge chunk of his dusty ranch, brought in bulldozers, and began shaping the earth. Why didn't Elias file a restraining order? Why didn't he call the police? Because Elias was doing the absolute worst thing he could. He was letting them spend the money. He was letting them sink the $12 million. He was waiting for the moment when their investment was too massive to ever recover. For 10 long months, Elias watched the development from a small folding chair on his remaining land. He watched them build the luxurious clubhouse. He watched the $350,000 automated sprinkler system go in. He watched them plant the rare, high-maintenance bentgrass that cost a fortune and required absolute ownership of the land. This required immense patience, a quiet focus, and a sadistic sense of timing. The HOA leadership, meanwhile, was high on their own success. They were already pre-selling club memberships, taking hefty fees, and planning the grand opening gala. They thought Elias was defeated, a broken man resigned to fate. Board member Bob, glee-filled, was heard saying, "Look at it! The emerald crown of the subdivision. That old fool next door just gave up. We'll simply pay him for the minor land we used once the financing closes." They had no idea they were not just building a golf course on his land. They were building a $12 million trap. Okay, real talk. Imagine watching your neighbor spend $12 million to build the perfect swimming pool, only for you to realize they built it directly on your property line. Would you stop them? Or would you wait for the grand opening before pulling the plug? The excitement is palpable. The grand opening day arrived. Champagne was chilled, investors were gathered, and the HOA board was about to take their victory lap. But at 8 a.m., a motorcade arrived at the county courthouse. It wasn't the mayor. It wasn't the governor. It was Elias Vance, escorted by a team of federal marshals and a county surveyor. In the packed courtroom, Elias didn't need to argue about unsightly ranches. He just held up the original grandfathered ranch deed. Elias's lawyer, delivering the legal facts, stated, "The defense concedes that the new Emerald Crown Golf Course, including the first 4 holes, the irrigation pond, and the foundation of the clubhouse, are built entirely on the property defined by Title VII, Parcel B, legally and unquestionably owned by Mr. Elias Vance." The gasps in the courtroom could have extinguished the pilot light on a furnace. The HOA lawyers started scrambling, pointing to the land purchase agreement they had signed. But Elias's lawyer cut them off with a chilling sentence. That agreement only covered the surrounding land. The golf course itself was built on a long-forgotten, unsurveyed strip that was always part of the original Vance Ranch grant. The HOA proceeded with construction despite Mr. Vance's official denial and without securing a single easement. This entire facility is now an illegal encroachment on private property. The golf course was illegally built. But what happens next? Does the judge order a simple fine? No. Elias had the power of total destruction in his hands, and the $12 million investment was about to turn into a complete and utter loss. The judge, stunned by the sheer, reckless arrogance of the HOA, gave Elias Vance 2 options. 1. Allow the HOA to purchase the land at a price 10 times the market value. 2. Demand the immediate removal of all illegal structures and return the land to its prior state. Elias walked over to the HOA board table, where board member Bob was pale and sweating. He looked him dead in the eye. Elias, chillingly calm, delivered his decision. "I choose a 3rd option. I will take possession of my land, including all permanent fixtures, the clubhouse, the irrigation, the $12 million worth of investment. And since I now own the entire parcel, and my land is designated for agricultural use, I'm reclassifying it as a Class 3 municipal landfill." The silence was deafening. The HOA had to watch, powerless, as Elias used their own property taxes to secure a contract with the county to begin dumping refuse on the pristine fairways. The grand opening gala was canceled. The $12 million clubhouse became the landfill office. The perfect 18th hole became the staging ground for trash trucks. The malicious compliance was complete. The HOA wanted to use their financial power to bully Elias out of his land and turn it into something beautiful for themselves. Elias responded by using his superior legal power to turn their $12 million investment into literal garbage. They paid for their own spectacular demise. This story is a perfect example of what happens when the small-time tyrant, the arrogant HOA, runs into the one person who knows more than they do and has the patience to let them dig their own grave. It's the sweet, dark thrill of watching hubris get its final, devastating reward. You don't have to be a Secretary of the Interior, you just need to know the law better than your enemies. This story, like all of them, proves one thing: karma in the form of a legal loophole is the sweetest kind of revenge. But what if the aggression isn't about property, but about pure, destructive spite? What if a Karen decides to escalate the property war to an act of outright arson? If you enjoyed watching this HOA's financial ruin, you need to see the video where HOA Karen torched my new yacht, only to discover her victim was the harbor master who controlled her entire dock and boat access. Click the video on your screen right now to see the ultimate maritime revenge. HOA Karen torched my new yacht. Didn't know I'm the harbor master who controls every dock she uses. Click now and prepare for the tide to turn on an entitled Karen.